Hi, I'm Larry McAtee, Ward 3 City Council. And what a delight today to look at the cultural aspect of Oklahoma City. I happen to be a basketball fan, so I'm not a real fan, if you will, of art. But we have with us the Chief Executive Officer and President of the Oklahoma City Art Museum. Did I get that right, Mike?
You got it right.
Mike Whittington. Mike, thank you for taking time to be with us today, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
You have a fascinating story, and one which I find hard to believe. Tell the viewers where you moved from and how long you've been here in Oklahoma City, Mike.
I've been here about a year and a half. I moved here from Carmel, California. If you're familiar with this area at all, you know that the Monterey Peninsula is about 2 hours south of San Francisco. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. I was recruited for the position here about a year and a half ago and moved here. You know, interestingly, some of my friends in California, because Californians are much like Oklahomans, they believe that God created the state just for them, and it's the most wonderful place on earth. And many of my friends said, why would you ever consider moving to Oklahoma City? And I said, obviously, you've never been to Oklahoma City. So that ended that discussion.
And what have you found during your brief time here in Oklahoma City, Mike?
Well, you know, people talk about one of the great natural resources of Oklahoma being its people, and that's true. And so the people here are incredible, but what I've found on my initial visits here, even before I moved here, was a city with a great ambition, a city that's visionary and forward-thinking. And one of the compelling reasons for me to move here was that I wanted to be a part of that.
Now, how can the Art Museum be a part of that visionary approach that you say Oklahoma City's got, Mike?
Well, it already is, and it has been historically. If you look at the history of the Art Museum, you may be surprised to learn that it stretches all the way back to World War II, to the 1940s, and it existed in various incarnations. At the Overholser Mansion, there was a location in Nichols Hills. There was also a building at the fairgrounds. But Carolyn Hill, who was director at the time, back in the late 90s and early 2000, had this great visionary idea to move the museum to a downtown location. And so that's when the museum purchased the Center Theater. And you may remember going to movies there. But it had fallen into disrepair and had been abandoned for many years. And so the museum purchased this property with the help of the Donald Reynolds Foundation and built the museum around it. And now the old Center Theater, which was one of the great movie palaces of Oklahoma City in the late 40s and 50s, now is the home to our film program, which is a program of national reputation, and the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. So it's a great story. So we were the leaders in many ways and the catalyst for this downtown renaissance, which we now see around us.
And you have, it's located in what we now call the Arts District.
That's correct. That's correct.
What are some of the things that our residents would be interested in about the activities at the museum? What do you have on display? What are your plans? Some ideas like on that line.
Well, we have 3 full floors, and so you can spend really a full day at the museum, starting with our Chihuly exhibition on the 3rd floor. Our current exhibition, which is a temporary exhibition which runs through January 18th, called My Generation, Young Chinese Artist. These are all artists who are under 35 years old. They're part of the one-child policy of China, part of the economic open door policy of China. So they're global in their thoughts. They're citizens of the world, much like all young people are today. You can also shop. We have a store. We have a great restaurant, which I would assume you've been to.
I've been to the museum
as a neighbor
cafe.
many
Yep.
times. So it's a great opportunity to spend an afternoon or a full day.
Now, the exhibit that's on right now is this Young Chinese Artists. You have some other exhibits planned for the rest of your year, which I believe in your calendar ends in July. What are those?
Well, following My Generation, we have an exhibition called Intent to Deceive. You know, periodically you'll read in the newspaper or hear on the news about an art forgery. Someone has painted a work of art, they've created a sculpture, and it's fraudulent or a fake, and they're trying to either sell it on the open market or sell it to a museum. And so this exhibition has some of the great fakes and forgeries of all time, including a number of works that were given to the Oklahoma City Museum of Art that we didn't catch until sometime after they were given to us. So it's a great detective story. It's a great human interest story. We're being very open about the fact that we were fooled too. We even have a detective night planned in the galleries called it's kind of a Miss Marple adventure called "Who Killed the Art Forger?" So it's we're having a lot of fun with it. And then we also have an Andy Warhol exhibition that opens concurrently with this, called the Athlete Series: 10 portraits of famous athletes that Warhol painted. And what follows is our big exhibition of the year, Fabergé, Jeweler to the Czars. Fabergé was the great court jeweler of the Russian aristocracy. His work is on display at major museums around the world. We're showing the largest collection of Fabergé works outside Russia. This is the entire Fabergé collection of the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts in Richmond. It includes 4 imperial Easter eggs. It's going to be incredible, and that opens in June of this year.
So that, well, actually June of 2015 is what you're...
That's correct.
And so, unbelievable. What about for our young people in Oklahoma City? How can they get involved in art?
Well, that's a good question, and we have increasingly we have activities planned in our galleries, so you can bring your family and children with you and enjoy an activity in the galleries, whether it's one of our art packs. You can check out an art pack from our front desk, and you and your children can enjoy activities throughout the museums. We have sketching stations set up, so you can just come and draw if you like, or you can sign up for a more formal class. So, we like to think that there's an activity and something for the museum all the way up from toddlers to senior citizens.
Now, what about the importance of art in the development of a young person, no matter what career they go into? What would you say to that?
Well, art and music and sports and mathematics and science and reading, all of these open doors. And so this is what allowed me, as a little boy growing up in Thomaston, Georgia, to see there was a world beyond the little town in which I was living. Because I had access to something, that magical place called a library, and the world was limitless for me. I also had art classes and I had music classes. So I didn't go to an art museum until I was 18 years old. But now I'm running one. And it's all because of those opportunities that were given to me as a little boy. And so I don't believe in segregating these. I believe that we have to educate the whole person, and art and music and science and reading and mathematics are all part of that.
Now, you shared with me off camera that some of the greatest artists in history were also very much involved in science.
Absolutely. This division that we have as contemporary men and women of art and science and is completely artificial. If you look at the work of Leonardo da Vinci, for example, one of the most famous scientists, but also one of our best known artists, he was also involved in the production of war machines. If you look at some of his sketches, they were great advances in fighting that he was paid to complete. Some of them are quite scary, in fact, when you look at them. But he was a fabulous artist and an incredible scientist as well. So yes, this division is completely artificial.
So you see the need for art and music being incorporated into our educational process, as well as reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Well, I think we're seeing the results of not having those programs incorporated into education. Because we're not seeing the whole child and the whole individual being nurtured in a way that we can. And not every child is going to respond to art. So, some children are going to be great basketball players and lousy artists. But the great thing about an education is it does cultivate a whole individual, and I think that certainly is my goal. And we're taking the lead now that so many schools are not providing art education. At the Oklahoma City Museum of Art are taking the lead. So we're providing that art education for the schools. In fact, when they come to the museum, we will reimburse them for the cost of transportation through a program we have called the Yellow Bus Brigade.
Now, a parent or a grandparent like I am out there is kind of maybe intrigued by the vision that you just laid out there, the importance of art. How can they get in contact with the museum?
Well, the best way is to go to our website, which is okcmoa.com. Look at the activities on our website, sign up for our weekly email newsletter, and then join the museum. That's the best way. And then you get discounts on classes, you get advance notice of everything that we're doing.
Now, and you mentioned during the summer you run summer programs for the young people?
We run summer camps back to back, and those are fascinating. The topics change every year. We always have at least one or two filmmaking classes, and the films that those students produce are terrific. Very strong filmmaking program here.
As you look out into the future, Mike, what do you see for the Oklahoma City Museum of Art, and what would be, how would we view it in, say, 5 or 10 years from now?
Well, that's a great question, and one of the challenges for me in coming here and working here was to keep the energy of the museum as high as the energy and the ambition of the city, and that's a tall order because this is an ambitious city with very talented people who are in corporate positions and also in leadership positions. So I think, in 5 to 10 years, you will see the museum growing, perhaps physically growing, certainly growing in the content of what we're doing even more and ambitious exhibitions, and also building our permanent collection. Those are the works of art that we personally own. And that's our legacy, that's our gift to the future. So that's how you're going to see us evolving.
Mike, thank you for taking the time to come down here. Thank you for what you and your staff are doing to improve the quality of life for all our citizens in Oklahoma City. And viewers, I hope you've caught the passion that Mike has for the arts and how important it is to moving Oklahoma City forward. May God continue to bless you, and may God bless each of our viewers as we continue to move Oklahoma City forward and not forgetting one of our important components, our art community. Thank you for watching.